All right, what's going down? My name is Dr. Ben. This is the Pre-Chiro podcast. I'm here today with Day.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for joining me. The purpose of this podcast is really to try and contextualize the chiropractic path
Mhm.
and also attract some new populations into the profession, mainly aiming at diverse populations that got the mindset of somebody that grew up with a lot of adversity, because I believe chiropractic is one of those professions where you know what it's like, then it
Yeah.
makes it easier to be a chiropractor because you've been through that adversity. So anyway, let's just get right into it. If we could center our voice on that prospective student, that young high school or college student that's thinking of healthcare, maybe deciding what their path is going to be, can you share where you were at that time in life, and what was going on in your life before you found chiropractic?
Oh, yeah. So chiropractic found me. I know a lot of people say that, and it's kind of a little cliche, but honestly, chiropractic truly found me. It chose me and it pulled me in. In high school, I actually was an EMT. So I became an EMT at 18. And in high school, that was kind of the pinnacle of my career where I saw myself. So in high school, I was like, okay, cool. Coming from this high school, especially coming from O'Connell, where most students do drop out and don't really have are afforded a lot of the opportunities that other schools in San Francisco are able to provide. I only saw myself working as an EMT. I never really ever thought of myself as a doctor. Definitely as a little kid, it was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would say I want to be a doctor. But I think that disconnect of your dreams in childhood to your realities in high school, sometimes you don't understand how to follow that path or create your dreams to allow them to come into fruition. So for myself, it was I'm going to be an EMT. It wasn't until I became an EMT and got into an accident on the job where I shifted into chiropractic care, but also seeing how broken the medical model was as an EMT. I knew that deep down inside there was something I had to do to change this, that there was something going on systemically. And the only way that these issues were going to change is if people started coming into different professions, started, because representation does matter. So for more and Black youth to be able to see doctors that look like them and actually take their healthcare serious. And also like looking at the medical model compared to the chiropractic model, about how chiropractors actually go to the root cause versus a lot of medical doctors are just trying to find a band-aid um, for
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. So that's just kind of really what led me down the path into chiropractic. For myself, at the age of 20, I had just turned 21. Was like right after I had just turned 21. I got into a really bad accident working on the ambulance where I was crushed by a gurney. I herniated 2 discs in my back and I tore my sartorius on the left side. I lost function from my left leg from the knee down. There was no sensation, no feeling, no movement. Moving around was extremely difficult. And the doctors told me that the only option I had was surgery and I was wheelchair bound. So basically, after the first surgery, there was a 50-50 shot that I'd end up in a wheelchair. But after the second surgery, I'd definitely be in a wheelchair. At 21 years old, after I just got into nursing school, I applied for the fire academy. I was deciding what I wanted to do in life. It was kind of a devastating blow, but I decided that wasn't going to be my life and that wasn't going to be my fate. That the doctors were wrong. That God was going to guide me somewhere different. And sure enough, I just kept researching, and that's when I found chiropractic. And through chiropractic and spinal rehab, I'm about to be a chiropractor now,
Yeah.
and surgery was super avoidable. So it
Yeah.
just also made me wonder how many other people are going through the same things. And then being the translator for my grandparents as a child, taking them to their doctor's appointments, seeing the lack of their health care. And my grandma actually passed at the beginning of this year due to liver disease, which she was diagnosed with 15 years ago. But the medical doctors never told us because they said even if she would have known, there wouldn't have been any lifestyle choices or changes she would have made to prolong her life. So they're really taking your health into their hands, which does not sit right with me. So
Mm-hmm.
that's also why I think chiropractic is huge, because the chiropractic profession is going to start to accelerate. We are at 10% of the population, but I think as we start expanding, especially with this rise in consciousness, a lot of people actually seeing the faults within the medical model with COVID, with everything that's going on, people are starting to turn to more holistic practices, especially chiropractic. I also do marketing for a few different offices in the Bay Area, and that's the one thing I can say is the offices I have been working with, their population has doubled. So their clientele has doubled since COVID has started. So that
Yep.
just kind of shows us what's to come.
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, I was attracted to go to Oakland for its diversity. I come from a diverse city in New York, and I grew up around a lot of people who never ended up going to college. I like to say that I was the only one in my friend circle that went to college, and I was definitely one of the only people out of my high school that ended up being a doctor,
Yeah, same
being
here.
a chiropractor. And yeah, and that's a big deal, like to have made it as far as we've made it and tried, like hustled and gotten through our classes, gotten grades that allow us to keep proceeding to that point where we get to call ourselves a doctor, is 700 plus exams in chiropractic school that we have to get
Facts.
through. So it's bananas to think of you and I being such a small percentage of 1% that made it
Mhm.
out of the hood to be able to become chiropractors. And we haven't forgotten, we stay connected to our roots. Like
Yep.
we still talk to the people we came up with. We still stay
Mhm.
in touch because we realize we have the solutions. We have that clarity, and that's huge. That's where I see the potential in this pre-Cairo project going is, can we reach the people that are the only people in their family to go to college yet want to become like holistic doctors? And right now the shiny object is go become a nurse, go become a medical doctor or a
Mhm.
physician's assistant. And I believe that if chiropractic was placed there and differentiated beautifully, like we promote health, we really are about embodied healing and really
Mhm.
being with yourself, as opposed to just taking a drug to numb your experience. We could really help heal the people that we care about the most, which are the people that we know have the least amount of access to holistic healthcare. So, can you speak a little bit to that young student who is looking for a way to make a difference in their community, in their families' lives, in their communities' lives, and wants to become a doctor one day? But let's like rewind a little bit, or let's take a step back and just say they want to go into healthcare. They're not
Mhm.
sure if doctoring is the way to go, but can you speak to that person, that young person?
Oh, of course I can. So I'm gonna speak to like 15-year-old me. Honestly, do not limit yourselves. You truly are limitless, and whatever you set your mind to, you truly can achieve. At 15 years old, at 16 years old, I was expelled from high school. I ended up moving to a different high school. Which was completely different from the first high school I was at. I ended up being in one of the lowest income high schools within San Francisco. Um, and there was no options, there was no resources there. So I just want you to know you are not forgotten about. And the fact that I always like to tell people this, the people that come up from the hood, they know how to hustle. You guys have grind, you know how to get yours. And that's so important that you always stay with that and keep that embodiment within you. Because trust me, when you get into the grad school programs, when you get into these nursing programs, these doctor programs, whatever program that you set your mind to, you're going to not only just get there, but you're going to kill it while you're there because your hustle came from pressure. The circumstances you were placed in made you the diamond that you needed to be to shine bright in that program. And you can achieve anything, anything. Not only that, but you're going to achieve it with that hustle mentality. So don't limit yourself and go and chase whatever dream you want. Cause I never once saw myself as like being younger, being a doctor. Um, it was always a statistical mindset in my head. So once I learned the statistics of my people being Afro Latina, I was like, okay, I'm either going to fall in these statistics, this statistic, this statistic, or this statistic.
Yep.
But once I started educating myself on these statistics, I was like, hey, that statistic isn't going to be me. I need to do something for my community. And not only that, whatever you do for your community, don't quantify it as I did something little that doesn't matter. No, that little always matters. In high school, I was tutoring my friends because they weren't going to graduate. And then that helped them get their diplomas. And then after high school, I started tutoring people from my block and then other blocks to help get them their GEDs. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just like those little ripple effects that impacted and changed people's lives that actually made them more qualified for certain employment, put them at a different pay rate by having their GEDs and high school diplomas that a lot of people in certain areas within the inner city do not have don't have, and they don't have access to those resources. So it's like
Right.
those ripple effects, like the famous quote, you don't know how powerful something you do say or think can impact the lives of millions tomorrow. And it's just by making small changes, you can really ripple out and really affect your community. If you're doing like large scale things, I commend you for that. That's your mission. If you're doing something that's more small work, that's also still your mission. And don't compare your mission to other people's missions because everybody's in their own mission. But just go
No.
ahead and you can do it.
Yeah, so we're both chiropractors, and we're happy in the path that we chose. I believe chiropractic is the missing link to close
Hmm.
that health equity gap quite considerably. It's not going to be the only thing, but it's the way that we begin to build that bridge to the people. So, what do you think about chiropractic being like this integral, holistic doctor that is working with the healers, working with the massage people, the Reiki people, the nutritionists, the exercise people, and really bringing it all together into an organized sort of healthcare system for these marginalized communities?
I actually did do a speech about this at Life West at seminar last year about how chiropractors can close the gap. I think by chiropractors looking at your body as a whole system and actually finding ways to heal the mind, body, and soul, you're able to allow your body to heal. But in the United States, we have something called the health to wealth gradient. And with the health to wealth gradient, with 99.9% accuracy, the insurance companies can predict what you're going to die from and when due to your income and your zip code. The only anomaly to this was specifically Mexican immigrants within the United States. And they started to do research as to why Mexican immigrants were having the longest life expectancies within the United States. They factored in all the ideas about how a lot of immigrants do not go to healthcare professionals because they're scared. They factored in a lot of different situations and variabilities. But when they actually did the brain mapping, they noticed that the centers in the brain that correlate to hope were firing off within Mexican immigrants. It was the highest
Yeah.
out of everybody across the board. So they actually started to realize the one thing that can break the health to wealth gradient is remapping the brain with hope. And I believe chiropractors truly do that for all of their patients. Just because I know for myself, I was told I wasn't going to walk. I was told I was going to be in a wheelchair. I saw a chiropractor. Chiropractor looked at me, he's like, my chiropractor looked at me, he's like, oh, we're going to get you right. You'll be fine. And it really gave me the hope to keep going forward. Working with patients in clinic, I'm able to see inspiring hope within them, hope within different people. And it's that change within the brainwave frequency that healthcare really does blossom, or wellness really does blossom. So chiropractors are able to instill hope into their patients. And I think that's really what's going to break the health to wealth gradient, as well as the other scientific portions of looking at the body as a whole, holistic systems, and kind of getting back to that ancient medicine, which we forgot with the westernized diet.
No doubt. Yeah, a couple of things that you bring up there. Having a positive expectation that things are going to go well in the
Mm-hmm.
clinical sense is one of the hallmarks, I believe, of being a compassionate, connected healer. And I believe that's what separates chiropractors a lot of the times is, yeah, you might hear the story that somebody is giving you that might have came from a conversation with a medical doctor, or they might have a label that was given to them, a diagnosis, but you see beyond that as the
Mm-hmm.
chiropractor because you're looking to really have empathy and know where they're coming from. And I believe that that's why we need more diversity in the profession, because not enough chiropractors really know where people are coming from. They can't speak that same language, they can't relate. And being from a place, if you don't have a trust of doctors and you go see a chiropractor, you don't know the difference.
You're not
Honestly, you
going.
go to the chiropractor, but if in a minute, the chiropractor could relate to you in a way you've never been related to from any other doctor. Instantly, you got that trust, you got that
Mm-hmm.
bond. I mean, it doesn't take much. Like you said, culturally, the Latino community, the Black community, they have more hope and faith because they spend time in the church. They spend
Mm-hmm.
time like having to have that faith because they don't have as much and they have to see a brighter future for themselves, which is really what chiropractors are seeing when someone walks in their office. We're right on that same page of like, we see that there is a bigger power out there. Some people call it God, some people call it universal intelligence, and we see that same wisdom within the person. And we're not coming at it from a fear-based place, like where we want to scare
Mm-hmm.
somebody into care or we want to scare them. We want to empower them and make them feel like they're whole, like they don't need to do anything except start adding a couple of good things to their physiological expression. So can you speak a
Yes.
little bit from a scientific standpoint as to what the key ingredients are on a fundamental level that doesn't cost anything to anybody, but that they can just access basically on their own?
Oh yeah, so basically what I'm a huge fan of YouTube. honestly, anything you want to learn, YouTube it. I have my own health brand known as I Woke Wellness, where we provide free meditation classes, free breath work, different workshops, different affirmations, different information daily. So that's always a free resource for people to check out. But I always tell people, try YouTube, try different people in your community, try things out, see if it works for you, if it doesn't work for you. And what I always tell people is, you know yourself more than anybody else. So if something's not correlating or not resonating with you, it's not meant for you. It's okay, cool, try something different. Just like with meditation, there's over 3,000 forms of meditation. You might try one out and you might not like it, but just try some things different out. But I think the most important thing is getting to know yourself, and getting to know yourself is free, but it does take a lot of time putting in
Yeah.
the work to get to know yourself, because once you know yourself, nobody can shake you, nobody can move you. You can hear things about yourself, you can hear people talking about you, you could be given a diagnosis, but if you know deep down inside of yourself, like, oh well, that's not for me, that's not me, it doesn't move you. And I think the one thing that we can start gravitating towards is knowledge of self.
Mm.
And there's so many different ways to get to know yourself. Just also finding out what you do and you don't like is a great way to start. And I think that the more that you start knowing yourself, the more you're able to develop a deeper relationship with yourself. So you're able to start understanding when you're out of alignment, when things are off. Definitely from the beginning of chiropractic school till now, my knowledge and self has, I can't even put into words of how deep it's gotten into. But now it's like, oh, that right shoulder's a little hiked up. There's some stress going on there. Oh, my hip's a little twisted. There's some things going on there. Oh, I noticed that my foot's a little pronated. There's something going on there. So it's just, the more you start knowing yourself, the more you're able to see when you're off, and seeing things that you can help, and then seeing also when you need help from others. So that's something that's free. There's great books that you can read. Just see what you like and what you don't like. It's a self journey, and there's no formula to it. How one person gets to know themselves might not be the way that you get to know yourself. Some people get to know themselves through other people. Some people get to know themselves through solitude. So it's just really finding about what's congruent with yourself, and just always staying congruent.
Hmm. Yeah, the chiropractic adjustment is obviously something that most people have to pay for. It is available in little
Mm-hmm.
tiny specific spots if you find out about it. But what it does is it increases our awareness and our proprioception. So we have a more deeper connection to ourself, to our body, and we begin to develop trust because we start to have a pain-free experience in our body where we realize, wow, pain-free existence is a possibility, or a balanced blood sugar regulatory situation is possible. And I just want to congratulate you on getting as far as you've gotten, and you've got so much more work to do. But can you speak a little bit to I Woke Wellness's sort of connection to chiropractic, and how you see chiropractic fitting into the model that you're developing for the community that you want to serve?
Yeah, so I Woke Wellness was an idea I had about 3 years ago, and kind of worked on it silently for like the last year, and launched it this year in about March, April.
Okay.
But basically, what I Woke Wellness is, it's just a collaboration within the community to provide free health resources. Just with the health disparities within the Black and Brown community, I wanted to go ahead and shed light onto it. But I noticed that with the movement and everything going on right now, there's a lot of issues being highlighted but no solutions coming with it. So I want to make sure that people stay empowered in their health, and also learn different ways to manage their health, cope with certain things going on, and also just become an outlet, a community area where people can come to feel comfortable, feel safe. So we post daily. On Mondays we do Mental Health Matters Mondays, TikToking Tuesdays for chiropractic. Woke Wednesdays is typically where we go live and discuss our monthly topics. We have That's Facts Thursdays, what are history lessons, where we break down statistics, how things in history have started impacting us, and where the roots from certain things have come from. Then we have Fine Foodie Fridays, where we give out free different recipes, ways to evaluate food, meditation with food. Then Then we do Saturday shenanigans, what's typically a lot of workouts or what community events we're sponsoring. And then we have self-care and self-study Sundays, so they alternate, where we give out different books to read. And then we also do monthly pop-up events where we get into the community and provide a free educational health class, whether it be breath work, yoga, meditation. And then we always make sure that we plug chiropractic and talk about chiropractic, because chiropractic is the epicenter of all of this. Chiropractic allows you to align and connect with your body, but it allows for that communication within your system. For all of this information to even be integrated, we need to have that proper communication channel. So chiropractic is the epicenter of iWoke Wellness, and what I'm trying to do is make chiropractic the epicenter of my communities. I'm working on a few different ways to get chiropractic into different areas within San Francisco and within Oakland, and just changing people's mindsets on chiropractic. Whenever I go back to the block or go kick it with the homies, I always make sure I talk about chiropractic in different ways. And I'm starting to see people who remind me of myself back in the day. It's like, I'm not going to do chiropractic. That's some hippy dippy stuff. Nope. Who are just so reluctant now, actually starting to think about it and starting to see, you know what, this might be for me. But for chiropractic to expand, it does need to become diverse, because we are at the point where if chiropractic doesn't expand, it's going to die out. And that's just how any profession goes. Chiropractic is at the point right now. It's
not die out, but sell out. There will always be the people that will keep it real with the chiropractic, but from a profession's standpoint, like overall, it will sell out in effort to become more integrated and become more validated, so that, you know, they get people to come to chiropractic school for the wrong reasons. And that's what we're trying to do right here, is just contextualize this path and what you can accomplish with this specialized educational programming. Wow. Okay. That iWoke Wellness sounds like it's lit. That's fire. Wow.
Thank you. We just had a huge health pop-up on Saturday at Lake Merritt, where we had 25 different health brands come out. We had about 6 different workshops and classes for the community. We had a free kids library, Pilates, yoga, breathwork, meditation, fitness boot camps, booths with Reiki, booths with massage therapy, different health vendors for juices, for vegan products.
Who is the chiropractor?
We had the source out there for the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
No doubt. So I'm also in Oakland. We have a nonprofit where we're able to see people for less, which makes it more accessible, called Hands for Life Lake Merritt. I just want to let you know that, you know, we do a lot of projects in the area, and you being someone who I imagine is coming out with a lot of student loans, this is a path for you to give back to your community, but also be forgiven for the work that you're doing. Because I came out and I was service oriented. Everything was doing this for free, going to this homeless clinic or this shelter and offering my services, going on these service trips. And eventually you get to realize that you could have actually been doing all the stuff you're doing and been getting credit.
Yeah.
Been getting credit for the public service loan forgiveness program. So people that are scared to go to chiropractic school or graduate school, get $200,000 in loans, you can actually end up running the numbers, and it ends up being around $60,000 to go to chiropractic school if you play your cards right and you keep serving your community, you give back, right?
And that's a thing, like, also too, a lot of people don't want to go to these low income communities because they think they're not going to make money. But if you really look at the economy, the black and brown dollar drive the U.S. economy. So if we start getting into these areas that are under tapped, don't have chiropractic, your office will boom. You will be beyond successful. I understand chiropractic and saturation. A lot of chiropractors go to saturated areas and they do exponential just because everybody in that community knows what's going on. But if you go into these communities where nobody's heard about chiropractic, you can change so many different things. I stopped keeping track, but when I was keeping track, I got to the total of 60. So within my first four quarters at Life West, I actually got 60 patients into the health center to see different interns. And I stopped counting because I was like, you know what, I need to stop counting. This is a little egotistical at this point. But I've continued to flood patients in, and it's because I've been going into these communities that have never heard about chiropractic and talking about how it can impact their health. I also think that chiropractic needs to start reaching into these communities, but also make it affordable, because I know there's chiropractors out there charging $100 to $200 an adjustment, and you want to see somebody 3 times a week. For the middle class American, that's still a little tough, but if you want to go to the working class American citizen, that's impossible. Where it's
Impossible.
like, that's groceries. And
Even
I think,
25, even $25 an adjustment is rough for people, but it
mhm,
makes more sense to them because it's in that income bracket, or it's in that price range that they're used to hearing about. Like, people go and spend $120 to get their hair done. So if
yep,
I'm telling them, hey, I need to see you and I'm gonna charge you 25, like, they're like, okay, respect. I can maybe think about doing that. And it's funny, the people that have less are willing to just sign up because they see they see
the
the
benefit in
benefit,
it.
and normally they can't afford it and they want it, but they can't access it. So it's been a blessing to be in Oakland, the Shift Chiropractic, downtown Oakland, and just
A
blessing the people for like 8 years now. You
Oh,
know,
that's beautiful.
yeah, it's a gift. So, can you speak a little bit about the future of chiropractic education with more diversity into it? Just like, imagine that we have a boom and we're able to attract, 100 new Black and Brown chiropractic students into the education system in the next year. How do we coordinate them? What is possible with that?
So basically, I always say stay limitless, but at Life West, I've sat on the diversity and inclusion. I was putting those words together. Diversity and inclusion board since I've been at Life West, and basically we've created an inclusive language policy. We've also started to restructure and rewrite the curriculum. We're the only chiropractic school to do that, and I've been really honored to be a part of that and getting part of being a part of that change. But this is something that needs to be implemented within all schools. Um, Myself, chiropractic school is very white. That it just is what it is. And coming into chiropractic school as a woman of color, there has been certain times where it's just like, there's ignorances that do flow through, and I think especially in chiropractic we need to start changing those things, and we also need to start being a lot more open-minded. I know it sounds a lot better spoken, but I think there needs to be more of these harsh conversations that are had. I've definitely been somebody at Life West to speak up on the behalf of others and have hard conversations with people that people might not always want to have, but these are things that we should better hash out in school than in practice. There's certain things like we need to have diversity training as a class that's required for all students, just because we need to understand about different hair textures that does affect when you adjust. Because when my hair was braided, I had a chiropractor do a seated cervical on me and ripped a braid out. It was extremely painful. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like learning about things like that, also learning about different skin textures. When your hair is like, when you just put an oil in your hair, it's going to make your neck a little bit greasier. So learning how to have that conversation with your patient, where it's like, hey, I'm going to put a napkin on the back of your neck while I adjust you so my hand doesn't slip off, instead of just throwing a napkin on your patient who has oil on their neck versus nobody else in your office, and making your patient feel a certain type of way. Because the first time that happened to me, I was like, so just kind of allowing people to speak up on their experiences and what's happening to them, to create the changes that are needing to happen in chiropractic. And also taking diversity with, what's the word I'm looking for? Not integrity, but doing it for the right reasons. So I've definitely spoken on the economic impact of diversity within chiropractic. We're going to be able to see a larger population, as the numbers and statistics change within the United States. By 2050, white people will be the minority within the United States. So it's like we do need to shift with our population, but we also need to shift with our population for the right reasons, and
Right.
staying congruent in healthcare and within checking the spine and clearing the nervous system. But just being open to having those hard conversations, but also not being afraid to ask these questions. So I was actually at a chiro house, and I forget what happened politically, but I was really upset. And then my friend was like, "Can I ask you something?" And she's like, and I was the only person of color there. Everybody else there was white. And she was like, "Can I ask you something?" And she's like, "I don't want you to get offended." She's like, "But I truly, genuinely am curious." And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Does racism even exist?" She's like, "I've never seen racism before." And I was like flabbergasted, to say the least, when
Yeah.
she asked me that question. I was like, I can name like experiences today that have happened.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but from that, we actually sat down and had a heart to heart, where it's like, she is a white woman in America that lives in a very affluent part of town, where she's grown up in that area. So for her, she's never experienced that. And then the lack of diversity within her community, she never actually got to see it firsthand to people who are around her. So we were able to like sit down and have that conversation and change her perspective, and also change the perspective of all my friends who were there. And they
Right.
actually all started crying, and they're like, oh my gosh, you've gone through these experiences. And I'm like, yeah, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Being
No.
melanated is dope and popping, but hey.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of that, but it also gives people of color an advantage within chiropractic, because when you come out of chiropractic school as a chiropractor in the medical profession, or the healthcare profession, to say, I don't like the term medical racism, because medical racism is used very improperly within chiropractic, but we are discriminated against as a profession. We're called quacks, we're called all this and that, and people want to get mad, argue, and fight about it, when people of color come to chiropractic. It's like, oh, I've already been called every name in the book. You want to add that too? Cool. I'm still with my hustle. So it
Mhm.
doesn't affect, it just kind of rolls off. The skin's already been thick. And I feel like that's a huge advantage of people of color having chiropractic.
Big facts. Big
Yeah.
facts. Yeah, there's a huge advantage to being able to handle that judgment that comes from somebody who doesn't know you, who's not familiar with your way of thinking. And that's pretty much every chiropractor's experience when they go out into their communities after they graduate and they just got done studying something so deeply and immersing themselves around people that think like
They
chiropractors.
do. Yeah.
We realize society is not really thinking like chiropractors.
Mm-mm.
So, when are you graduating?
I graduate next year in June.
Okay. And where do you plan to practice when you graduate?
See, that is a great question. So, I'm a San Francisco native from the Mission District, and I've been working with San Francisco City Council to propose a budget to bring in more Black businesses within San Francisco. So, if that budget gets approved in November, I'm probably going to stay within San Francisco. I'm actually just opened. Oh, this is big news. I haven't shared it yet, but I'm opening a storefront in Oakland on Telegraph on October 15th, since I'm a Reiki practitioner, and for all the products, holistic products I sell. So I'll be there. We're at Telegraph. We're called The Spot. It's already open, but I'll be joining the team on October 15th. So I do have the space in Oakland now, but I also have some opportunities in LA, and I fell in love with Atlanta. So I have a lot of thinking to do over the next 9 months, but I know God's going to place me where people are going to need me. So I'm just a happy person on the journey and on the ride.
That's awesome. That's great. What's up? Um, yeah, so just to keep it moving on the topic of prospective students and how we can support them, how do you recommend students get started in exploring the path of chiropractic education, chiropractic school?
The thing I always tell all the youth that I've worked with is intern and shadow. I've done every single internship you can think of. I've shadowed. I really wanted to be a medical doctor before I found chiropractic. I shadowed every single different discipline within medicine, as well as shadowed nurses. Then I actually used to work for the former Mayor Ed Lee of San Francisco. So I've worked in politics, I've worked in business. So working in different places and actually doing internships in different places and shadowing at different places is great, because you're able to see what the day to day looks like and seeing if you could really picture yourself there. I really recommend that everybody look at their personality and see what they like to do, and don't go for things because they sound great on paper, because I know that there's been chiropractic students that have never gone to a chiropractor, who started
Mhm.
school. They heard you made a lot of money, and then they actually start getting into it, and it's not for them. For me, I never saw myself as a chiropractor at first, since I loved working as an EMT. I really like this high adrenaline, high fast paced work environment. But now, immersing myself in chiropractic, I'm able to give myself that. And with chiropractic, it's limitless. You could literally do whatever you want. If you want to work with babies, if you want to work with elderly people, if you want to work more on mental health, if you want to go into research, science, the possibilities are abundant. But I think it's really important for these kids to contact different chiropractors, ask them questions, see if they could shadow at the office. Every school has their discovery weekend or champion weekend. I'm not sure what different schools call it, to go into the school and see if you like it. But that's the most important thing, is talking to people who are in the profession, who are recently in the profession and have been in the profession for a long time, to get the different perspectives. But
Yep.
just see if you could see yourself there. If you can't see yourself there, don't put yourself through it. If you go there and you're like, I can see myself doing this every day, then do it. And don't
Mhm.
like finances, all of that, don't make an excuse. This is an investment in you, and you are worth every single dollar. So do it.
Mhm. No doubt. Sometimes students get inspired by the sciences that are associated with the discipline that they choose to follow. Can you speak about the uniqueness of the physiology, the neurology of the spine brain connection, of the spine and the spirit connection, of chiropractic's uniqueness for that high school or college student that is like, why would I want to go become a chiropractor more so than a physical therapist? Or, why would I really want to follow this path when I'm really just attracted to the sciences, and I don't think chiropractic is scientific? What would you say to them?
I'm a physiologist by trade, so I got my undergraduate degree in physiology. I love science. I've always been a science nerd, but the science in chiropractic offers me something that no other science can do. I'm also huge in different theologies, so I've studied every single religion that you can think of, going really, really in depth, finding the commonalities, what really connects people, so I'm better able to understand people and people's thought processes. But studying the Mayan culture and the Aztec culture, they say that the spine is your stairway to heaven because it's your direct communication with God or the source or the energy of the world. But by having what chiropractors call as subluxations, these misalignments within the spine, we dampen that communication. And if you really think about it, when your bones are out of alignment, you're affecting all your neurology, so your brain and body can't communicate. So it's really, really amazing to see, the more you start diving into these different religions, how they were so spot on with the physiology, what was going on with the body, with the system. If you look into Ayurvedic medicine, if you look into Chinese medicine, it's all going back to the same thing of communication. And taking physiology classes in undergrad being pre-med compared to physiology classes in chiropractic school, it's a whole different lens. What I really loved in chiropractic school is we look at everything as how interconnected it is. And if you really get into physics, every single portion of your body, it's made of frequency, and all your frequency is connected. So why would we, if we have a foot complaint, why are we just going to look at the foot? There's obviously, go up the chain, there's going to be other things that are going to start happening. So it's actually breaking everything down to a way where we're looking at frequencies, we're looking at atoms, we're looking at the neurons, we're looking at everything, but we're looking at the interconnectedness within it all. What I think is so beautiful, because it's a lost art. If we start going into like ancient religions and looking at how they've used it, physics, if we look at Newton's physics, a lot of that's being lost in westernized society, where we want to change and separate and pull everything apart. But with chiropractic, it's so unique. Like,
Mm,
it's its
mm,
own, it's definitely it's its own discipline, but it's just something that no other profession can give you. Like, physical therapy is great. I went through spinal rehab. I worked with a physical therapist.
mm,
But I think there's a time and place for everything, where a physical therapist is working on your muscle function. Your
mm,
physical therapist isn't working on your brain communication to that muscle, to turn that muscle on, to get your body fired and get your body ready, getting everything accelerated. So I think
mm,
everybody plays their role, but chiropractic is just that next level, where it's like, you can restore the communication, but you can also promote the individual's own body to heal how it should.
hmm. Yeah, no, I believe that kinesiology students, biology students, if they heard the message you just shared right there, they would take chiropractic a lot more seriously, and they would look at it as the
Mm-hmm.
primary choice if they wanted to promote health and wellness in the patients that they were taking care of as a doctor, as a primary care portal of entry that could receive care, can receive people off the streets and from all different backgrounds without a referral, and that they could have relationships with specialists that appreciate them and respect them, because those specialists don't do what we do, right? We're unique. We're offering a unique service. And I just want you to know that that message you just shared right there, whew, like if your 15-year-old self would have heard that, it might have gone way over your head,
Your
but it
head.
also like would have touched a bunch of different places in your body. And the thing that I'm in amazement of after all these years, all the thousands of people I've touched, is how the spine and that connection in the nervous system that you describe affects other areas of their life, their relationships, their job,
Mm-hmm.
their satisfaction in life in general is affected, right? We've looked in the literature at how your posture affects your mental well-being, and that's one thing, but looking at how the brain affects all these other areas of life is, we're just hitting
It's
the tip of the iceberg. It's like you said, limitless, right?
it's mind-blowing. And I think with me, I love to read, I love to be a student, I love knowledge. Chiropractic gives you that you could be a student for life. And another thing too, always taking my grandparents to the hospital as a child, me having my experiences with my health, with my accident, I was able to see that the medical model doesn't make people well. It's a big band-aid, especially being an EMT. There were so many patients, I always recall this one patient. He had a stroke. We got to his house. We asked him, what did you eat today? He's like, I had McDonald's for breakfast, and then we had KFC for lunch. And I was like, so, and his blood
Crazy.
pressure was through the roof. He was having a stroke. And he's like, oh, and I forgot my high blood pressure medication today. And I was like, okay. I was like, one thing is you shouldn't have been eating any of this. And he's like, oh, the medical doctor at Kaiser told me that I can eat whatever I want as long as I take my blood pressure medicine. So since
But,
I forgot my blood
but
pressure medicine, and I
hold
was
on
just like,
one second. I got to get my charger. Hold on one second.
oh, yeah, just wild things.
Oh, come on. Ah.
Real life struggles.
Yeah, real life, real life. We can edit that out. I just
Oh,
my
no,
bad.
you're good.
Um,
But it's like mind blowing. It's like, maybe if you would have had some fresh fruits and vegetables today or started exercising, it could have changed the whole outcome. And with how severe that stroke was by the time we got there and transported him, he was going to have cognitive brain functioning decrease for the rest of his life. His limbs were going to be paralyzed. And it's just, if he would have known, it would have been his choice whether he wanted to change it, but he didn't even know what was going on within his system.
yeah, no, there's so much beyond when you start asking the question of what is the cause of what this person is experiencing in their life? What is really the cause beyond their story? And seeing beyond what they present with, right? Somebody might present with a limp, but do you look at them as a person who's limping, or do you look at them as a person who's like really just needing to uncover that part of themselves that's holding themselves in this tension pattern that can unwind itself if given the right force and the right sort of connection and guidance over time, right? So as chiropractors, it's not event-based, it's process-oriented. And so we're not just saying that somebody's going to get fixed in that moment. We're saying, hey, I understand what you're going through. I hear you. But let's take some time on this. Let's realize that this didn't just start today. So I just want to change directions as we wrap up here. The idea of this podcast is pre-Chiro. So the vision is that there's 5 stages of pre-Chiro student development. And the pre-Chiro student, I believe, is missing the first 4 stages. They're jumping straight to admissions. You and me were different than that. We had gone down many different paths and tried to determine what was going to be the best for us with a curious mind. And I do recommend that, but it's not that efficient. It took a lot of energy, a lot of patience, and we might not have ended up in this place had we not been persistent and not just gone with the first thing that we saw that caught our eye or that got our attention. So can you speak a little bit about what a pre-Chiro student program would look like in your eyes if you were contextualizing the profession, but also really getting somebody ready for what you've been going through these last couple of years to like actually be able to handle that and take it with an understanding that they had an expectation that was more accurate to what you're experiencing as a student?
I think it'd be really important to have palpation classes, of course. Definitely science classes, they're more focused on vitalism and holism. I think it's also super duper important to also have self-care and self-wellness classes as well, just because as you touch people, you transfer energy. You go through this program, it's very rigorous on your mental health. So talking about different ways that you can have coping mechanisms for that, especially working with patients every day, it can be draining on the system. Especially not every day you're going to personally have is going to be a good day. So knowing how to be present and showing up for people when
Mm,
you're at your lowest is also extremely important. Um, I think e- I think it's really important to have a trade or a different profession going into chiropractic. So either being massage therapy, being an EMT, even working as a CNA. Um, I've done all three where it's just like it gives you a different focus into chiropractic where you can, if you want to do emergency medicine and do athletes, like cool, that's amazing. Massage therapy, it helps develop your hands, it helps develop your sense, it allows you to see the interconnectedness of the fascia and the muscles. It allows you to see the body in a different way. It helps you put on your chiropractic, I like to call them your chiropractic goggles, to look at the world a little bit sooner. um, Working as a CNA for your bedside manner. That's the one thing I have noticed in chiropractic school. A lot of students don't have any healthcare background and they don't have bedside manner, proper bedside manner, or they've lived very privileged lifestyles, which is not a bad thing. And if you can provide that for your child, that's amazing. But they come into this mentality of things needing to be given to them and communicating that to your patients. That communication needs to be broken down. So I think communication would be huge versus on an intrapersonal and an extrapersonal level, but also within groups. I think public speaking is huge. So you're able to convey this information and the hard topics to your patients and to your practice, but also being able to talk your tick. I think philosophy would be really great, not centered on the chiropractic philosophy, but other philosophers. So that way, when you get into the chiropractic program, you're able to see how all of these different philosophers correlated, even though they were in different centuries, like different places of the world, yet they also had the same understanding. So just kind of a whole well-rounded approach to getting there. But I think everybody has their own journey because they say
mhm,
you can only meet others as deeply as you've met yourself. And in each lifetime, I think some people are going to get into the deepest knowledge of self and others aren't. They're going to be more superficial. And that's not a judgment. It's just, it is what it is. So just
yeah.
not taking it hard for yourself for your path, because that might not be your path and it might be somebody else's path. So just always being easy on yourself, but definitely
Mhm.
a whole a whole shebang of everything chiropractic would be really great.
Dope, dope. Appreciate you for joining us today. There's been so much beauty in this discussion that I want students to behold the beauty of this discussion. I hope that someone gets to hear this early on in their journey and that it helps shape somewhat of the path. If anyone out there is listening and you have questions, there will be a comment box below. You can drop us questions. We're here for you.
Yes,
If there
always.
is, yes. So we have this website, becomeacairo.com, that we're building, that we're going to have resources, that will have mentorship from people like yourself somewhat available, because I think that is crucial. I think is needed. And I'm just happy to be the one bringing it, because I've been talking about doing this for 10 years since I got into chiropractic school. And I was in school in North Philadelphia and I stumbled into this profession and I was like, how did I not know about this? Like, I was
North
a,
Philadelphia,
yeah,
born and
what?
raised.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, West Philly. I was a personal trainer. I was studying nutrition. I was a massage therapist.
See, that's perfect.
I was a kinesiology student. All the things that you would want to have as your foundation before you go to chiropractic school, and I had never even heard it was like the thing. So anyway, this is our goal, to put it in front of people. Choose your own path, choose your own
Hmm.
adventure, but no, chiropractic is the choice if you're going to be a wellness doctor, if you're going to be a professional that knows how to really change someone's life, from the inside out.
That's true. And that's so beautiful. And I'm so glad that you put this together just because we need to keep promoting the profession and we need to start getting more people into the profession. And a lot of people don't know about chiropractic. So, by providing this platform and this resource, it's going to be pivotal, especially for this fight to make sure that chiropractic doesn't sell out. And as Dr. Glass said, feel free to reach out to either of us. I'm always here to help people. So, if you want to contact me, you can contact me at iWoke Wellness on Instagram. It's the letter I and then just woke wellness. But always reach out. I'm here for you, whatever support you need. I will keep it real with you. I'll tell you the highs and the lows of chiropractic school, whatever you need, that I'm here. But I just also want to thank you, Dr. Glass, for taking your time to interview me, for listening to my interview. I really appreciate that. And just everything that you do in the chiropractic community. I've heard your name brought up multiple times. I know of the amazing, great things that you do. Hands for Life is an amazing nonprofit. So thank you for staying in the community, staying about it, and making sure people get the help that they need. So I commend you for that.
I thank you from the heart. And if it's not us, then who is it going to be? Because like you said, we got out of a community that has been forgotten, and it was so there's so many different moments, pivot points, that if we would have gone a different direction, we wouldn't be here having this conversation. But we're here, so let's make it happen. Thank you. Stay woke. Appreciate you. 2020, we in here.
Feel me.
We live, you know.